Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth in terms of how to navigate the waters and focus and having a feeling of security and resilience after being through a manipulative relationship. Someone, where it's been several rough patches, a tough go. Things have gotten a little bit uncomfortable or very uncomfortable. You might have learned some unsavory information about this individual, or you find that they're leading a double or a triple life, or that you have been deceived and played like a fiddle, and it becomes very difficult to find your balance, find your grounding, and what basically is known as sort of being on kilter, being in balance. Learning to regain your balance is going to be a primary goal and skill set that you want to learn and become aware of as you navigate the healing journey, the healing process. When you are in a relationship with someone who is a manipulator, someone who is a pathological liar, a controller, someone who is deceptive and duplicitous, meaning, they're one way and then another behind your back. So you've got basically one thing and then the bottom falls out and you feel that you have no foundation, and this person can be very significant in you to your family, your relationship, or your workplace. And when you are then sort of exposing the truth or finding that you are no longer going to tolerate this, you have to learn self-tolerance and really learning and focusing in on that internal locus of control to really get your balance and your kilter back. When you're in a relationship with someone who is a manipulator, a psychopath, a narcissist, one of their ploys is to get you off kilter, to get you into a gaslighted or brainwashed state, believing the worst, believing, the doubt, believing in the dark side of the street, no longer feeling that you are worthy or treating you with respect and as if you're worthy of handling or can handle the truth, or that you want to be lay everything out on the table and get all of your chips and figure out what's what and where your emphasis and your focus is. When you are in a relationship with someone who is toxic, controlling, and a manipulator, it causes you to become off kilter, meaning especially as it relates to that internal locus of control and self-direction. So people oftentimes will find direction in others. They will find direction in others, meaning, you help me, get my life back together, or now everything is into focus. And this can be a very positive thing, something or someone to work for, something to look forward to, something to strive towards, having a common goal, having collaboration, a coming together. Things, can then work in a checks and balances when you are dealing with the truth, when you're dealing with honesty. However, when you're in a relationship with someone who is duplicitous, manipulative, toxic, does not treat you with respect, treats you, like you can't do it, so I might as well do everything, myself. In other words, they exhibit a lot of intolerance towards you. This creates a feeling of resistance, meaning, you want to safeguard and protect yourself. And oftentimes you are resisting not only your ability, but the intolerable behavior that you are being subjected to. In other words, let me do it all is what ends up happening. It becomes a very one-sided relationship with someone who is controlling. And this is different than a leader. This is different than a mentor. This is a different experience. So we're talking really about the difference between right and wrong, the difference between internal locus of control and external locus of control. We're, talking about the difference, trying to be very, very clear between what is good and what is not functional in relationships. And if you're in a relationship with someone who is covertly narcissistic, and I know that we have a lot of people asking about this, so we are also going to be picking up our topics on the covert narcissism. But when we talk about relationships with people who are duplicitous, where they're treating you one way, but behind your back they're doing another, it develops a cognitive dissonance and it gets you off kilter, meaning you don't really know which direction is right. You don't know which direction is left. You don't know what's in your best interest or to work in the relationship sort of, collaboratively. So it ends up in a lot of second guessing and not knowing, being able to sort of find that compass within. And then people develop a lot of resistance, meaning they get stuck. And, resistance mean you're oftentimes resisting tolerating the relationship, but you're also resisting your own self-growth. So it's kind of like you cannot simultaneously be in an abusive relationship and be unabused. It becomes a real difficult simultaneous, it becomes an important part where you have to be able to gain a sense of focus, decision making, and have a self-image that is whole and complete, and that does not foster that sort of off-kilter view, meaning loss of direction, loss of clarity, loss of thinking in what I call pod thinking, positive, orderly direction thinking, feeling, and behaving. Life will go forward, it'll go backwards, you'll have ups and downs, but if you are on kilter, meaning you have that strength within and that clarity within, and you know in your heart that you will have self-tolerance. In other words, you'll be able to have tolerance within in order to release that resistance without. In other words, if you are always resisting, you're always trying to fend off, defend, and justify. And this is a common behavior exhibited in those people who have been manipulated, controlled, brainwashed, and gaslighted. It's like they're locking into place. It's the hormones of stress that get you on high alert and then get you into a state where oftentimes you can't compute all the data, or you become just sort of hyper focused on the manipulator and under focused on yourself, under focused on your own feelings, because they're not attended to by the narcissist or the psychopath or the manipulator or controller. So then why should you attend to them? It becomes basically a new rule, a new level of low or intolerance towards self. So it's part of the aspect towards healing is being able to loosen up that resistance to within, and having more tolerance for self, more tolerance for what your needs are, more tolerance for knowing, when it's okay to be quiet and not react, to be able to listen, to be able to receive, and to be able to make a decision, when you're ready. And the foundation has to be able to be consistent. In other words, being on kilter will also help you to develop self-trust. When you're in a relationship with someone who's a manipulator or a hyper controller, they basically send the message that you can't do it, you're not trustworthy, I need it faster, slower, higher, lower. It's basically a off-kilter relationship. It's an off-balance where they want to have the say, the lead, the terms. It can become very uncomfortable unless you go along with this individual who is a manipulator, a controller. If not that you appear unpopular or that you should get, their bad side or something. There's a lot of reasons for a lot of people to stay in a dysfunctional relationship, but to a degree that you then tolerate abuse will be the degree to which you tolerate in our resistance of your own healing to a certain degree. I feel that there's oftentimes a real parallel. So it's important that you begin to develop tolerance for yourself and then compassion. So in other words, to shake off that external locus of control often is laden with a lot of judgment, a lot of you can'ts. So you have to alchemize, and you have to be able to register that within, and being able to listen within, and being able to understand what, perhaps you might have felt that you dropped the ball for yourself, and then going back and finding that ball wherever you dropped it, in the field, in the parkway, in the parking lot, and then picking yourself up there, and then really fostering a new self-image. Self-image, meaning a vision of yourself that you can adhere to. I also talk about this in sort of having a vision board or priming your subconscious. You really need to know what image you can consistently reattach yourself to within. So if the people around you, if they you can't really have a healthy functional attachment. You feel that it's always shifting, changing. They are not reliable. They are not secure or consistent. They're wanting to play the mind games. It's, you're shooting down without even having a chance. And so a lot of people who are in these situations, they find that they develop a high degree of tolerance for mistreatment, and they don't speak up enough. It's the old, use it or lose it. So a lot of people have not used their willpower to overcome in a long time. So they haven't really tapped in within. They haven't really found that resourcefulness within. And so they they feel off balance. And so when you're in that, feeling of state of being off balance, off kilter, know that the balance is within, and that you do know what is proper balance for you in conversations, in cooking, in your work, in your lifestyle. You do really know what a life balance is, but oftentimes you have just not been able to listen to it, grab onto it, and follow up. And I find that really being able to tap into your own skill set, and it's going to be a process. It's going to take time to develop that balance, to develop that self-trust. And especially because people feel they've been robbed of the self-trust by a manipulator or someone who's controlling. If you don't ever get a chance to do it, it's like riding a bike. If you don't get a chance to do it yourself, you can't always learn to ride a bike by watching somebody else. I think there was a great book title, You Can't, learn to ride a bike at a seminar. You have to be able to get on the bike and then incorporate and apply, this, and pick it up for yourself, and then have someone hold the bike for you so you can feel your balance, and then let it go so you can then get the feeling of it within. It has to be applied tools within. You have to be able to use that kinesiology and tap into your self-balance and develop that self-trust, self-reliance, and then self-direction to regain a feeling of composure, a feeling of right decision-making, and not being off-kilter. If you feel off-kilter, say, whoa, I feel off-kilter for a moment. And buy yourself some time. Buy yourself 30 seconds. Buy yourself a minute, or buy yourself 5 minutes, and just say, whoa, I'm feeling off-kilter. What is this about? And then develop a little bit of rapport with yourself. The better relationship and rapport you can have with yourself, you'll see why it is you're getting off-kilter. And then being able to stand up for your own boundaries and standards so that you can retain that balance, and then develop the self-trust and develop the proper boundaries so that you develop self-tolerance and not just tolerance for abuse. You develop self-trust rather than distrust. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.